Well, it puts more scrutiny on the team, more scrutiny on the Texans, and it removes what wouldn't have been an excuse, but a totally valid explanation if Deshaun Watson had a subpar season, which is the man was running for his life once again. But the pressure to me is less on the quarterback and more on the coach, GM, young king in Houston, Bill OBrien, who is just, I mean, filled that power void entirely himself. And by the way, we've seen this play out in NFL history before, and I'm surprised more people haven't used this example. When Al Davis passed away, Hugh Jackson was in place in Oakland, and the power void created by Al Davis's passing, Hugh Jackson gobbled that all up and then did something we see a lot of coaches do, coaches when they also have GM power, when they know, man, if I don't win this year, I'm going to be out of here. You see it in the NBA happen a lot, and I think you saw it when Hugh traded a first and a second for Carson Palmer. What the Texans did here with Bill OBrien, the owner passes away, the son takes over, Bill OBrien, they oust the former GM, Brian Gaine.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, he knows, man, if we don't win this year, I could be gone, so the hell do I care about future picks? So let's trade for Laremy Tunsil. He got in a power struggle with Clowney that he lost. So the Texans, my friend Colin Cowherd made the point, and he's right, but I don't think it's the whole story, which is the Texans are, of course, better this year than otherwise, because this year, those draft picks, they would not use this year because they're future draft picks. But the price they paid was enormous, and yeah, it puts pressure on everyone in the organization. I do think in the short term, Chris, it makes Deshaun Watson better. Laremy Tunsil will make the entire offensive line better. But the cost was just so enormous that I think Deshaun Watson will benefit from it in 2019 and pay the price for it maybe in 2022 and 2023 when the team is less talented around him.
Well, what you're hoping is that Deshaun Watson will be able to mitigate those deficiencies that you're going to have in other areas of your team because you don't have that draft capital. Now, giving up 2 first-round draft picks and a second-round draft pick, that's a steep price to pay.
Man.
But when you look at what happened in your division with the Indianapolis Colts and the health, especially early on with Andrew Luck, which led to his early retirement, you recognize, okay, it's important to make sure that we protect our franchise quarterback. You can't have Deshaun Watson taking a bus to a road game because he can't fly with the team due to a partially collapsed lung. I mean, getting sacked 62 times, that's not sustainable. So I think that Bill OBrien made the right decision in terms of addressing an area of need. You just don't like the price that he paid. But that's the problem when you have that inherent conflict between, the general manager's responsibilities and the head coach's responsibilities.
Sure.
I mean, the head coach is trying to win for today. The general manager's responsibility is make sure that you have sustainability and you can win tomorrow. But because Bill OBrien is on the hot seat, he's going to mortgage the future of the franchise with the draft picks in order to give himself the best opportunity to have success. But the fact that they did address that area of need with this move and some of the moves that they made in the offseason, you have to feel good about the Texans, especially with Andrew Luck retiring in the AFC South. I mean, they clearly have the best quarterback within that division. If you have the best quarterback, that's going to lend itself to you having a really good chance to win your division.
Oh, they without question have the best quarterback in the division, and they have the best wide receiver in the division. Some people think the best wide receiver in all of football, but I don't think the Texans got dramatically better than they were last season. They got better in one spot, left tackle. They got worse on the defensive side of the ball. You get worse when you lose Jadeveon Clowney.
Yes.
Like, if people can say, oh, he didn't live up to the hype of #1 overall pick, they got worse. They lost Tyrann Mathieu, and I understand Tyrann Mathieu, some people say he's not the all-pro that he once was early in his career with Arizona ever since he blew out his knee. He's still a valuable, good defensive player. And for the Texans this season, this is my issue with any team. It was my issue with the Giants. Even if I don't agree with your philosophy, do you have a philosophy? Someone explained to me the Texans saying, we think because Andrew Luck retired, we can win right now. We can go to the Super Bowl or the AFC Championship game. Franchise never been to the AFC Championship game. Get further than we've ever gone. And, oh, yeah, by the way, we'll give away Jadeveon Clowney for 20 cents on the dollar. He wasn't going to sit out the year.
No,
he couldn't. He couldn't sit out the season. He was going to play for you, and you gave up on him. And so I think on one side of the aisle, they are saying, all right, we'll get rid of Clowney, even if it's just for a third-round pick, because it's not just about this year. And on the other side of the aisle, they're saying, the Texans will have made 1 first-round pick for 4 years once this Laremy Tunsil trade is finally paid out. And by the way, The pick they made was this year a tackle who they love so much, they just traded two more picks to get a tackle to play over him. It just, organizationally, it does not make sense to me.
No, it doesn't make sense. We haven't seen that Bill OBrien can prove that he's a head coach in this league, let alone being a talent evaluator and decision maker. And that's essentially his role because he's also the GM down in Houston. So for me, it's clunky the way that the organization has gone about their business. I mean, a part of this responsibility falls on Cal McNair in terms of setting the hierarchy within the organization. I don't think he's done a great job. And so now it's a matter of, okay, is this going to play out the way that Bill OBrien envisions, with this team being able to make a run at some point over the course of the next several years? But in looking at how this team is built, I think you have to recognize that this was a team that was led by their defense in years past, but they're transitioning to a team whose identity is going to be on the offensive side of the ball, because you do have a quarterback that most would agree is probably a top 10 to 12 quarterback in the National Football League.
I have a question. We started this conversation talking about that offensive line, and I don't know whether you think it was dramatically improved or not. How much of this is also placed on Deshaun Watson? He holds on to the ball a long time. Some of that the line can't do anything about. I don't know if one left tackle is going to make the line much better, but I think Bill OBrien has to address that as well.
Well, you have to have somebody that you feel comfortable with lining up in one-on-one pass protection situations, because you can't double-team everybody across the defensive front. And I think Laremy Tunsil gives you that flexibility. You can slide the line to the opposite side. You can help out some of those guys on the right side of your offensive line, knowing that Laremy Tunsil can line up against your premier edge players and hold his own. So I think that is a huge benefit for Deshaun Watson. But the other part of it is, what are you going to see from the running game? Or is he going to have some balance on the offensive side of the ball? They lost Pro Bowl running back Lamar Miller. He tore his ACL in that Dallas Cowboys preseason game. But they did make the move to bring over Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson. So we'll see if those two guys, by committee, are going to be able to replace the production that you got from Miller. But it has to be a much more balanced offense in order to alleviate pressure from Deshaun Watson. But, I mean, listen, it's not for a lack of trying. They've tried to put the pieces in place so Deshaun can have success. And I do think this team is the team to beat in the AFC South. It's just a matter of how much high-level winning are they going to do. That's the one that I don't have an answer to, because I have a question mark with the head coaching spot.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.